Hey, algebra students. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about factoring polynomials by grouping. Notice that I have polynomials that have 4 terms. And then in the end, we're going to do some trinomials like that we're used to factoring these sorts of things. Except what we're going to do to make factoring these trinomials a little easier, we're going to do this by grouping. I don't know if it's actually going to be easier. I hope it's going to be easier. We're going to do it by grouping, and we are going to see if this method makes it a little easier for you, especially for trinomials that have a coefficient in the front of the first term. All right, now, what am I talking about doing this by grouping? Let's take a look. So letter A. I have this entire polynomial here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it, but I'm going to put parentheses around the first term, 3y squared, okay, plus 6yz. So parentheses around the first 2 terms, plus, then we're going to put parentheses around the next 2 terms, 4y plus 8z. Now, why the parentheses? Well, what I'm trying to get at here is 2 terms that I can factor something out of. Okay, I notice that I can factor a y out of these first 2 terms. And actually, as I look at it, I can factor a 3y out of these first 2 terms. This second set of terms, I could factor out a 4, and that's it. And what I'm hoping is that I'm going to get a set of, when I factor things out, what's left in parentheses, I'm hoping is the same set of terms. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Like I said, it's way easier to do this than to explain it with words. So let's just do it. 3y, I'm going to factor 3y out of this first set of terms. What am I going to get? Y plus 2z is left over. Okay, I've got a plus here. I'm going to carry that down, and I'm going to factor a 4 out of the next set of terms. What am I going to be left with? Y plus 2z. Okay, hey, this is exactly what we were looking for. I factored something out in the front. I got y plus 2z in parentheses, factored something out here, got y plus 2z in parentheses. Now, here is the step that's really hard to describe. I call this the switcheroo step, because what we're going to do is we're going to combine 3y plus 4 into one set of terms in parentheses, and we're going to keep our other set of terms in parentheses as its own set of terms. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Again, like the words are hard here. But watch, this is pretty easy to see. 3y plus 4, I'm going to put that in parentheses. Notice where those came from. 3y was what I had out in front of my first set of parentheses. 4 was out in front of my second set. Okay, so 3y plus 4 times y plus 2z. Now, if this worked, we should be able to FOIL this back together and get what I started with over here. So let's just FOIL it back together. When I FOIL it, I get 3y squared. So far, so good. Plus 6yz. That's my outer. Inner is plus 4y. And then plus 8z. Let's just make sure that I have what I started with, 3y squared plus 6yz plus 4y plus 8z. So FOILing proves that this is what I started with. This was the answer, okay? So this was just my check. I'm going to maybe put that in italics to show that we just use that to check my answer. This was the actual answer. Let's put that in bold. One of the great things about factoring by grouping is that it really doesn't matter what order you do things in. Anyway, we're just going to leave this in this form. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my parentheses, okay, around the first term, just like we did before, and then around the second set of terms. So I got 2 terms here, 2 terms here. And I'm going to factor out whatever I can. In the first term, I can factor out y squared to the front, y squared, okay? And it's going to be y squared times 3 minus 4y. That's what I have left over, 3 minus 4y. Plus, oh, look at this, 3 minus 4y. Okay, I can't factor anything out of those. I'm just going to note that there's an implied 1 in front of this term. And I'm going to be left with what? Let's see, this is going to be y squared plus 1. Let me just make these terms look good here. Plus 1. We're going to put that in parentheses because it's its own term. And then whatever was in parentheses, 3y, 3 minus 4y, 3 minus 4y. Okay, and that is my factored version. If I were to go ahead and FOIL that out again, I would notice I would get my original. You can go ahead and check me on that if you want to. And notice I've got the right term here, y squared plus 1, 3 minus 4y. All right, let's move on to letter C. Now for this one, I noticed that there's something I can factor out of everything. I can start by factoring out an 11x squared from all of the terms. And I'm going to do that. And now that 11x squared is going to be treated like when we were factoring trinomials and I pulled something out front. You just carry that along out front for the entire ride, but you don't have to touch that again. Okay, so I'm going to pull an 11x squared out. What am I left with then? 9xy minus 3x plus 3y minus, let's see, I pull out 11x squared, so my last term is just 1, okay? Now, the next step, I'm going to keep 11x squared out front. It's coming along for all of the rest of the steps. But then I'm going to group the things that are in here to 9xy minus 3x. Okay, that's my first group. Plus, and then my second group is going to be 3y minus 1. Okay, now I'm going to factor out anything else that I can. I noticed that I can factor out a 3 from this first step, 3x actually. So it's going to be 3x. Let's see, I'll pull that out front. 3x times 3y minus 1 plus, 1 times 3y minus 1. Okay, so now I just need to put these together as their own sets of terms here. So it's going to be 11x squared times, let's see, 3x plus 1. I'm taking the term from in front of here, the sign here, and the term from in front of the second one, 3y minus 1. And that is how we do it. Okay, let's just double check our answer here. That one goes all the way over there. Let me just slide this over so we're out of the way. There we are. All right, letter D. This one's going to involve something that you need to watch out for. So here we have 3a squared b minus 4ab plus 20 minus 15a. I'm going to group the first two terms together and the last two terms together, just like we've done before. But then when I factor these, watch what happens. So I'm going to pull out, let's see, just ab from the first one. It's going to be ab times 3b minus 4, okay? Plus, I can factor out a 5 here, 4 minus 3a. Hold on a second. What did I mix up here? This is supposed to be an a, not a b, because it was a squared, and I pulled out. Okay, so you get it. You saw it. You probably were yelling at me through your computer screen as soon as you saw that. Now, what do you notice? Do I have the same thing in parentheses here? I do not. This is 3a minus 4. This is 4 minus 3a. The signs are switched. Is there anything that I can do to that to make it so that it is the same? What if out of the second one, I factored out a negative 1. So instead of plus 5, it's plus negative 5 or minus 5, okay? That changes the sign of everything in parentheses by pulling out a negative. That means I have negative 4 plus 3a. Negative 4 plus 3a is the same as 3a minus 4. And look at that. As long as the only thing that's different is that the signs are switched, if I factor out a negative 1, it switches the signs in a correct way so that I have the same things in parentheses there. So this is going to be AB times AB minus 5. Okay, that's my first set of terms. AB minus 5 times 3A minus 4. And if I were to FOIL this out again, I would come back up with this term here, but let's make sure we did it right. AB minus 5, 3A minus 4, we're good. Okay, now, factoring trinomials by grouping is a little complicated, but it does help you to solve some of the more complicated trinomials, and you can always use this method if you want. So there are 4 steps to using this method for trinomials, and I just put those in the bottom corner here. First thing we need to do, we're going to do letter E, and we're going to find the product of A times C. Now, A is the number that's multiplying the x squared term. C is the final term. So this is just going to be 1 times negative 77. So for letter E, step 1 yields negative 77. Now we need to find factors of negative 77 that add up to the middle number, negative 4. Okay, so 77 is going to have some pretty simple factors. I think it's just going to be 11 and 7, right? Are there factors of negative 77 that add up to negative 4? That'd be negative 11 and 4. Nope, sorry, 7. Negative 11 and 7. When I multiply those together, I get negative 77. I add those together, I get negative 4. The next step is to write my trinomial using the sum of those two factors. So here's how I'm going to do this. Instead of writing x squared minus 4x, I'm going to do x squared minus 11x plus 7x. Isn't that the same thing as x squared minus 4x? It is. And then minus 77. It's still minus 77 at the end. This is the same as this, okay? But now I'm going to group my first terms together. I'm going to group my last terms together. And I'm going to factor this by grouping just like we did before. So this is going to be, let's see, what can I factor out of the first one? X times x minus 11 plus 7 times x minus 11. And that's going to give me x plus 7 times x minus 11 as the factorization of this one. And there we go. All right, letter F. In letter F, we have the exact same thing. So what I'm going to start with is A times C. 6 times negative 15 is negative 90. And what are the factors of negative 90 that add up to negative 1? Well, let's see. 30 times 3, 2 times 45. Oh, man, there's a lot of factors of 90. We could do like a 6 times 15, obviously. 10 times 9. There we go, 10 times 9. So it's going to be negative 10 and 9. So how am I going to rewrite this? It's going to be x squared, okay. And I need to make sure I have my entire first term. So it's not just going to be, and it's not x, it's a. So it's going to be 6a squared, okay, minus 10a plus 9a. That's the same thing as minus 1a, right? Minus 15. And now I'm going to group the first two, group the last two, okay? So far, so good. Now I'm going to factor out what I can here. Let's see. Out of this, I could factor a 2a. So it's going to be 2a times 3a minus 5 plus, in this case, I could factor out a 3, and it becomes 3a minus 5. Okay? So what am I left with when I recombine this? It's going to be 2a plus 3 and then 3a minus 5. Now, this one would have been a nightmare to factor the trinomial the way we traditionally factor trinomials, because we had 6 and 15 both have kind of a lot of factors. But actually, it was pretty easy to do using this grouping method. And now you know how to do this. You're ready to do numbers 1 through 30 for next time.